So welcome everybody to the last section of the International Business Forum from the e-boost project. It's about internationalization support in Canada, which will be presented by Innovi, Adexia, and Procurement in Canada, Government of Canada. And maybe some few words about the e-boost project. The e-boost project just finished within this month in May. We had 2.5 years of support services and funding for small and medium companies. And this event or the webinar now will be recorded. And we are a really big consortium within the e-boost project in Europe. It's provided from 6 clusters in 6 countries. And other than that, I guess it's just a short wrap up, and I will slowly hand over to.
Okay, so today we are going to speak about how to start and grow a business in the sustainable mobility sector in Canada. So I will start with a few introduction word about Canada, obviously, and I will present myself very quickly and Adexia. After that, Alex will present Innove cluster. So I won't say too much about that because Alex is very well adapted for this, and Jonathan will present all the procurement process for federal procurement services, and this is, I think, very important in this field because of the CETA agreement and the accessibility for EU SMEs to be able to work with public tenders in Canada, and on the other side, Canadian can also answer public tenders in Europe. So it's a good point to inform you about, and finally we will talk about different strategies that SMEs from Europe can use to access the Canadian market in e-mobility, but also in different sectors from which you can be coming from. So Adexia, we can switch to next slide already. Thank you. So Adexia, we are a consulting firm based in Montreal and Canada. We started our activities in 2006. And we specialized in helping foreign from Canada companies to expand, explore and expand their business in Canada in all kind of activities. We are also a member of an international network called Global Alliance. Global Alliance is a network of consulting firms such as Adexia, helping foreign companies to expand in different countries in the world. So we have 14 members in Global Alliance network, and we support companies in 70 countries. Yes, we helped so far more than 600 companies from different sizes in the last 20 years, expanding in Canada through different services we will see further on. And we have 50 foreign subsidiaries presently under management, or we used to have these companies under management. Maybe 30 of them we have under management so far at that time. So what are our services? We help companies through 4 families of services. The first one is the business development. So obviously we help companies to export and expand their market in Canada through market studies, strategy studies or analysis. We organize then trade missions, so individual trade missions it can be also collective trade missions, as we do for different clusters, especially European clusters. And we also have specific services for startups. So we developed a startup program called POC, which aimed to obtain to win the first proof of concept agreement between a European or foreign startup and a Canadian counterpart. Then we have a second family of services around subsidiary setup. So if you want to create a subsidiary in Canada, we can assist you in different kind of services, from domiciliation, incorporation, then back office management, employee hostings, or legal services. We also support our clients for human resources. If you want to hire people in Canada, we can take care of all the salary treatment and payroll services, and recruitment, coaching, or hosting of your collaborators in Canada. And finally, we have last family of services concerning the merger and acquisition projects in Canada. It's good to know that Canadian companies ecosystem is composed of more than 97 or 98% of SMEs, and the median age of SMEs owners is around 50. So we have a great challenge of I don't have the word in English, but we constantly need people to purchase companies whose owners are trying to retire. Actually. So Canada. Canada is the second largest country in the world. We are 40 million inhabitants, so it's a very large country, but very few population and a very low density. Ontario and Quebec are the two main provinces in terms of population in Canada. So Ontario is 16 million, Quebec 9 million. We have two official languages, French and English. French is mostly spoken in Quebec, and English in mostly the rest of Canada. As I said, it's a very wide country, large country. We have 4.5 thousand kilometers between east and west, and 4.5 time zones in the country, and 243,000 kilometers of coastline, around 3 oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic. Canada is also a rich cultural society with a very large immigrant population. We have 3 levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal. And of course, Jonathan will speak a little bit later, of federal body. And we have, since 1 month, a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who was elected in April this year. And he's from the Liberal Party. And yes, a brand new Prime Minister for us. In terms of economic figures, our minimum wages in euros is between 9.68 and 12.26 euros per hour. It varies because it's a provincial jurisdiction. So each province can fix its own minimum wage level. Our unemployment rate for the country is a little bit rising at 6.7%. We have an economic growth at 1.4% in 2024. And finally, our exchange rate between euro and Canadian dollar is 1.55 Canadian dollars for 1 euro, which has the Canadian dollar lost a little bit of its power in the last few months. I have included this slide because it's important to understand the weight in natural resources of Canada, in which the Canadian economy has built its growth in the last decades and centuries. So Canada has 20% of the world's freshwater reserves. It also it's also a very wide global electricity producer. It's a second electricity producer in hydroelectricity producer, sorry, in the world. And in Quebec, 99% of our electricity is sourced by renewable energy. We also have the third world's oil reserves, the fifth world's natural gas reserves. We are the first producer of potash, and also we produce a lot of different minerals such as nickel, gold, or diamonds. And we are the second world producer of uranium, mostly uranium used for of course, civil applications and energy production. And finally, we are obviously a big reserve and a producer of wood products. So about CETA, I just mentioned CETA a little bit earlier. CETA is a Canadian Europe trade agreement. This agreement is a free trade agreement allowing all 98% of goods to be shared between countries, between Europe countries and Canada without tariffs. Not the same than our neighbor on the south of the border. And CETA is also important because it allows, as I just said a little bit earlier, it allows European companies to bid for public tenders in Canada, and for Canadian companies to bid for public tenders in Europe. So CETA also says that foreign bidder, so EU bidders for Canada tenders, for example, should be treated the same way than Canadian bidders would be. Next slide, please. So main requesters of public tenders are obviously federal government, but also the provincial governments. We are 10 provinces and 3 territories, so it's 12, 10 and 3, 13, sorry. 13 different bodies that can you can bid for, and municipal governments too can emit public tenders. Of course, all transportation agencies such as Metrolinx, EXO, Via Rail for the train, Heritage are companies or crown corporations or public agencies that can be you could bid for too. So this is a little bit what I had to say in introduction. I will leave Alex continue.
Hi, thank you very much, Frédéric. So yeah, as you can see, so my name is Alex Champagne-Gina, so I represent Innové. I'm Director for Strategic Development there. So just a quick word about us. Innové is what we call a sector-based industrial research cluster. We are based in Quebec. We are a nonprofit dedicated to support companies and research institutions within the province of Quebec who are doing like innovation in the 4 sectors you see here. So smart transportation, electric energy production, and everything else that's related to energy. So batteries, hydrogen, electricity transport, etc. So our mission is to promote, support, and fund collaborative research. So we manage our own funding programs. I'm talking about companies within the province of Quebec. So that's the important nuance here. So we help companies and research institutions in Quebec, but also foreign ones who are interested to collaborate with Quebec organizations. So that's why we're here. So like we're looking for potential partners and potential collaborations there. Here you have a couple of key numbers for the past 10 years. So we had around 134 projects approved. This number is a little bit higher right now. Those projects we had around 250 partners, and the total value of project was around 122 million. So it's about an average of $1 million per project. So and comparative so depending on if you're a small or a large company, that might be quite high or quite low. But what we do essentially is we focus on all the innovation process between TRL that are between 1 and 7. So everything that comes before the commercialization. So if you have a company that have ideas and that wants to develop those ideas, we can help with. So our international activities, the reason we are here now, since for about a year now, sorry, Canada has been eligible for the program Horizon Europe. So I know that the e-boost program itself was funded by Horizon Europe. So we'd be really happy to be part of such an initiative ourselves now. We are currently involved in our first Horizon Europe program, and we are looking to ourselves but especially to involve our partners and our members into more Horizon Europe project. So that's one of the key goals we have now. We're also looking for collaboration with European organization in order to be able to collaboratively fund initiatives. So we are able to fund the work that's being done in Quebec, in Canada, and we're looking to find collaborations with organizations that can fund what's happening in their country, so we can more easily do collaborative international projects. So right now we are negotiating, and we are supposed to launch call for projects soon with France, Germany, and South Korea. So we will soon be able to announce all those beautiful projects. So we'll keep you posted with all of that. Right now we've signed collaborations with many organizations, especially in France, like the Agence d'Innovation pour les Transports, the Pôle Médé in northern France, and Tenerdis, which is in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes and the Lyon region. Now I've talked a little bit about who we are. I've been asked to talk to you about the whole electromobility ecosystem and energy ecosystem in Canada. As I said before, we're a Quebec-based organization, so this presentation might be a little bit more Quebec-focused, but I tried to expand it a little bit more. So if you see a lot of things about Quebec, it's not just because we are the best, but I'm just joking. It's just that I've got more information about what's happening in Quebec, so there's more information in that, but there's a lot of really great things being done elsewhere, and I tried to showcase everything being done in Canada, but we're quite a large country, so it's sometimes hard to do it. So for all the other Canadians here, sorry if I don't represent what you're doing as well as I could. So that being said, I won't repeat what Frédéric has already told. One of our greatest strengths right now is it's the energy situation in Canada. So we're blessed by the choices that have been made by our ancestors and our grandfathers and grandmothers. We have now over 65% of the electricity coming from renewables, and in some parts of the country it goes up to 94%, like in Ontario, the biggest province, and 99% in Quebec. But this energy is not only green, it's pretty cheap too. So I've also made a mistake here. So it's I'm talking about 7 and 10 cents per kilowatt hours, but I wrote there that it's in euro, but it's actually in Canadian dollars. So in euro, it's even cheaper than that. It goes down to about 4 euros for 4 cents of euros for the domestic, and can go down to like 1.5 or 2 cents of euro for commercial uses. So really, really cheap energy, which is both a great thing and a bad thing. Great thing because we can do a lot of things with that, but the bad thing is that we're some of the worst spoiler of energy. Like we use it without thinking about it, and there's not enough efficiency in our network. So that's one thing we need to work on. Even though we already have a lot of energy, there's still a great potential for wind, solar, and tidal energy. And we have, or let's say we used to have, a great carbon tax system, which is now being put in question. But things are still good on this side. On the other side, we're just sorry, Ulfia, still on the oil sectors. Like even though we're great with electricity, we're still some of the worst oil and fossil fuel users. We're the 9th largest consumer of oil and the 3rd per capita. So we still use a bit. A big reason for that is that we're one of the world's solo driving paradise. So like when you're thinking about the US and all the cars, Canada, it's pretty similar right now. So that's one of the things we need to work on. And also we've got not enough rail, especially for passenger rails, and most of it is still function on diesel. So that's another thing we need to work on. The government, both federal and provincial, has been supporting transport electrification for quite a while now. That's maybe one of the strengths we have. Even like the political parties that are more right-leaning, they're still not really opposed to electrification. Like if we see, for example, in Ontario, it's been a conservative government for quite a few years, and there are still a lot of support and a lot of things being done to promote transport electrification. So that's maybe one of the great things that we have there. You see here a couple of the incentives that have been made. So 680 million for EV charging infrastructure, IZEV program that offers incentive for zero emission vehicles across Canada. Currently, it's paused, but it's coming back online in a few months, or we hope so. And also quite a lot of investment for GHG emission reduction and to attract foreign investment in clean technologies. So a great output from the government for that. As for like what's the result for that, so we were aiming for 10% of electric vehicle across Canada in 2025. We won't reach that goal, but we're still, I think, pretty good in comparison with many other countries. In Quebec, we've reached about 8% of all personal vehicles that are electrified right now. Across Canada, it's closer to 1.3%, but there are really big differences between provinces. So, for example, in Quebec and Ontario and British Columbia, it's higher, and in some other provinces, it's a bit lower. Right now, they used to have a lot of incentives that have been either paused or canceled in the past few months. So we might reach maybe not a plateau, but at least like we were seeing quite a big increase in speed of adoption for electric vehicles. We might see a slowing down, but it's still going pretty well right now. As you can see, like when we looked at the light duty ZEV market share, so those numbers mean like the percentage of light duty vehicles, like what percentage were electric vehicles in comparison to diesel. You can see the difference here. So in Quebec, like the large provinces on the right and British Columbia on the left, there's a great adoption level, but once you go more in the middle, you see that the level of adoption is not quite as high. Those numbers were for light duty vehicles, but as everywhere in the world, whereas in the world, like the biggest where there still needs to be more work being done is on commercial vehicles, especially heavy vehicles. We're not different. Maybe the only the one key thing that we have is that we've got a lot of school buses, and school buses might be like the best use case for electric vehicles across any kind of vehicles in the world. You see here about 7.45% vehicle electrified. Most of them are school buses because like they only work during the morning and the evening, so there's still quite a lot of times to recharge the batteries and use them. So there's been a really great adoption and a lot of push by the governments to promote this kind of adoption. So for school buses, we've seen great adoption of electric vehicles. We've seen a little bit also for city buses, so like buses being used for commute and stuff like that. But for all the other sectors within like the heavy transportation and commercial vehicle adoption right now, we are more at the pilot projects sector. So you see for special mobile equipment. There's different names for those kind of vehicles across the world. So it might be a utility vehicle. So it's basically any vehicles that don't operate on the road. So for example, mining vehicles being used in port for port operations and stuff like that. We have quite a lot of them in Quebec, like 350,000, and we only have right now 638 vehicles electrified, so less than 0.2% right now. I don't have the numbers for the rest of Canada, but it's about the same. For heavy truck, like the percentage is a little bit higher, but it's mostly most of those vehicles are right now are mostly showcase, like they're being used on specific route, and it's quite difficult to use them in the same context as diesel vehicles. So especially in the context of Canada with the cold winter and the long distances, it's pretty hard to fit the technology with the needs that we have. So I've talked about like adoption. Now I'll talk about the manufacturing industry. So in Canada, we're building a lot of vehicles, a lot of different vehicles. The main cluster is located in Ontario with the car, automobile sector. So we both manufacture parts for cars and we assemble them too. That's where most and the largest companies are located. There's also in Ontario, like a lot of organization working on IT technologies and autonomous vehicles. So there's a big cluster related to that on the research side. In Quebec, we are pretty good for everything else, like everything that's not related to cars themselves. So we've built a lot of heavy vehicles, utility vehicles, buses, and recreational vehicles such as snowmobiles and ATVs. For other provinces, like in Manitoba, we've got a small but pretty productive bus clusters, like mostly for city buses, and a lot of infrastructure for Nordic climate testing. And finally, in British Columbia, we've got an electric and hydrogen vehicle cluster that's starting to become quite good. And I'm sorry for Jonathan for the maritime. I don't know about the specific, but if you know more about like the automobile vehicle sector in this side, please feel free to add to what I might have missed.
Thanks.
In more details for the cars and car parts industry, what you need to think is that this sector is closely linked to the Detroit and US auto industry. Like both of them, both geographically and commercially, are really closely linked together. So you've got on the map here Detroit just on the left, down left here, and all the Canadian companies are located just besides that. So for any type of vehicles being built either in Quebec and or in Michigan, like parts can go through the frontier like a few times, like the different parts being assembled at different companies. So the two are closely linked, which means that in the context of current tariffs that are being implemented, it's quite a blow on this industry, because like basically for them there's no frontier. Like they're just like they just use to exchange things like that, and it's quite hard and quite difficult right now to work in this context. There are still a lot of things being made, but it's right now there's a lot of uncertainty. However, like the Canadian industry, like even though it's quite linked, like if we can see in the next slide, sorry, thank you, like to go like over this maybe conception. No, sorry, just before that. The car part manufacturing industry, like they wanted to showcase that we're able in Canada to build a car by ourselves. So they launched a project called Project Arrow, which aimed to showcase like the capabilities of our car part manufacturing industry. They were able to construct this vehicle by using only parts being built in Quebec in Canada by companies like Magna, Martin Ray, Dana TM4, and all other part manufacturers. And they did this first iteration in 2023, and right now they're aiming to launch Project Arrow 2.0 in the coming months. So even though like we're linked to the US, we have all the tools necessary to build our own cars and to be more autonomous. So that was the first thing. There are still also like the current players like in auto, the biggest OEMs are also investing quite heavily in electrification. I won't go into all the details, but most of those large OEMs, Stellantis, General Motors, Honda, Ford, and Volkswagen, have made quite significant investment to make their current facilities EV ready, and they've built their own new facilities for new types of vehicles. So, for example, General Motors built a $1 billion facility to sell their BrightDrop EV 600, which is a light vehicle delivery, light duty delivery vehicle. And we also have a few battery materials and battery cell producers that have come to Canada. So, for example, POSCO for battery materials in Bécancour. We've got LG with Stellantis that invested $5 billion for a battery factory. And we have, or I might say had, Northvolt with a $7 billion battery cell plant in Quebec. This project is now highly uncertain with the bankruptcy of Northvolt, but well, we'll see. I see the face of my friend from Hamburg, which are in a quite similar situation right now. So we are all in the same boat, I think. Besides cars, as I said before, we're manufacturing a lot of buses, especially in Quebec and Manitoba. We build all kind of buses, like school buses with Lion Electric and Bluebird, city buses with Nova Bus, coach buses with Prévost, and we're also seeing more and more smaller companies going to maybe some more niche and smaller markets. It's a sector that's like, as I think everything related to electric vehicles right now is like at the bottom maybe of a curve. We've seen some issues, like for example, Lion Electric also had a bankruptcy a few months ago, but right now it's being rebuilt and relaunched and focusing more closely on the electric buses, school buses sector. But even though like the things are slowing down, we're seeing like an uptake right now, and things are getting better and better right now for a lot of those companies. Another sector where we're quite involved, and we have quite a lot of great companies, is in utility vehicle sector. So it goes from like all kinds of vehicles, from smaller like Motrec and Cargo, which build light duty, slow speed vehicles that are more used in within facilities, within factories, up to really larger vehicles, such as the ones you can see from like Institut du Véhicule Innovant, which is a heavy mining vehicle that was being built. I'll go quickly because I see the time going, and I don't have a lot. Still have a lot of things to say. To operate those vehicles, like we need a charging infrastructure. Such like in many jurisdictions, we have Tesla that installed a lot of DC fast charger installations, but we also have quite a lot of other companies being involved and promoting public charging infrastructures. We have also those charger manufacturers, such as both foreign and local. So local, like Flow, which is a pretty big, pretty great company based in Quebec, and also maybe smaller ones we are dedicated to more niche or other markets, such as NMEC or Bectrol. We also have factory facilities by ABB developing more higher power, higher voltage charger. Next slide. So to conclude, strengths and weaknesses of the Canadian EV industry. So we've got a lot of innovative companies, especially in everything linked to charging technologies and smart transportation, autonomous vehicles. We are like, well, we still consider it a strength, but even though the current situation makes it a little bit different, like there's a big proximity with the US, both geographically and regulatory terms. So it means that if you build a vehicle for the Canadian market, it can also be sold usually to the US market. So you don't need to develop something specifically for here. And because of the cold and everything, if your vehicle works in Canada, it's going to work anywhere else in the world. We've got a great strength in the heavy vehicle sectors like buses, trucks, etc., and in the car sectors also in Ontario. We are still lucky to have great support from federal and provincial governments across the country, almost everywhere, I'd say, and important reserves of critical materials. Still, we've got a few weaknesses, like in a lot of different countries, like our electric vehicle and battery industries are currently struggling a little bit. We're saying that it's at the bottom of the curve right now, but like we're seeing an uptake, and we hope that things would be better soon for everybody across the world. There's still some uncertainty with the US market, and we still need to adapt technologies being developed in foreign countries because of the specificity of the Canadian market and the Canadian climate. I still had another one, I think, but I think it disappeared in the mix. But the thing I still had to say was that right now, what we're looking for in Canada, like we're looking for collaboration. We have a lot of suppliers right now that would be more than happy to replace the current suppliers that you might have from other countries, and you might want to switch up. On ourselves, we're looking for collaboration. If you are an organization such as us that can fund innovation, we'd be more than happy to talk with you and be able to together promote different kind of technologies. And also, you've seen we have a few issues right now that we need to solve. For example, increasing our production of energy, electrifying our heavy vehicles. So if you have solutions in those sectors, we'd be happy to talk with you and to see what you have to offer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. So I guess it's anyway a great opportunity to share within our e-boost network or between the cluster partners, and just to show that the opportunities are on both sides available. And I guess if there are no questions at the moment, I guess we can hand over to Jonathan.
Excellent. Thank you. Are you all able to hear me? Great. Wonderful. Thanks so much for inviting me. My name is Jonathan Hebert. I'm here on the east coast of Canada, so probably one of the closest to you folks in Europe today in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Excellent to hear from Alex there, a little bit about what's going on in Innové, Quebec. I here am working in Atlantic region. However, my team is located across the country, so I'm sure Innové, Quebec may have run into my colleagues in Montreal, Procurement Assistance Canada, in that region as well. What my team does is we assist businesses in selling to the federal government. The Canadian federal government is the largest buyer of goods and services in Canada, period. We buy everything. Our kind of corny line that we give is from paper clips to fighter jets and everything in between. I always like to use this slide in behind me as an example. That's a fisheries offshore vessel that we just built in Vancouver. That's going to be making its way eventually through the Panama Canal to come to me here in Dartmouth. But if you think of everything that's on that vessel to support that crew, whether it's the clothing, the food, the IT equipment, and everything to operate that vessel, it just starts to give you an idea of the breadth of the purchasing power of the Government of Canada. And my job is to get out there and help you folks understand a little bit about how to do that. Really interesting day and time you join with us today. You'll forgive me if you see my head turning a little bit to the left, as I've got on the screen here the King of Canada arriving in Ottawa currently, and you may have a smile as I say King of Canada, who is arriving to Ottawa to deliver our speech from the throne in about 15-20 minutes time. Which will outlay the new government's priorities in a very interesting time for our economy and for our country. The time to do business in Canada, to look for Canadian markets, is now, and the opportunity is now. Alex mentioned a little bit about doing business with Canadian companies, in his case, Quebec companies. That kind of sentiment is true in procurement as well. There are many opportunities for you to sell to the Canadian government, but also for you to work with Canadian business, to work with our Indigenous communities in Canada, to foster reconciliation, to partner with our small local businesses, because we do use procurement here in Canada, not only to get what we need to do our job, but to support our economy and to support our small and diverse businesses. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about the government of Canada and selling to the government of Canada. So just on the previous slide, sorry, just to go back to that last one, there is we are in the billions of goods and services selling annually. One thing that can be tricky for folks, I would say, in Europe or other countries to really understand, and Frederick did a good job there explaining a bit, is our levels of government. It is a little bit different than in other countries. We have a strong federal government that has a presence across country, delivering on certain priorities, but we also have strong provincial governments that deliver on strong provincial priorities. And understanding the differences of who your buyer is and who you're selling to is key. If you're selling to hospitals, you're selling to the government of Quebec, or you're selling to the government of Nova Scotia. But if you're gonna sell onto our vessels, if you're gonna sell on a military base, our national parks, our immigration system, many other elements on the federal level, you'll be selling to the government of Canada. Those systems are different. And one thing you're going to see as a priority of this government, I suspect, in the next 20 minutes, I don't want to put words in the king's mouth, but what you'll likely hear is that you're going to see a push in Canada to bring down those barriers within our own country and create one Canadian economy. Right now, we do have 13 different jurisdictions in Canada that have different bits of things to do. If you're going to sell, the example that my premier recently gave was, if you're going to sell a frozen pizza here in Nova Scotia, the regulations of that, the box that it's in, the packaging and all that, doesn't need to be different than, say, in Ontario or in Quebec. If that frozen pizza is good enough for Nova Scotia, then it's good enough for Quebec. So I would keep an eye out on that. Just the last point on here, Public Services and Procurement Canada, that's my department. We're the large centralized purchaser for Government of Canada. So we would do all of the large contracts. We're going to build a vessel, we're going to build a building. My department would do that purchasing. But for the smaller contracts, and when I say small, it can still be $25,000 in goods or $40,000 in services. Federal departments like Fisheries and Oceans, Parks Canada, Health Canada can do those purchases directly. Okay, thank you. You can move on. Next slide, please. And you can go again. So finding opportunities. There's two main ways I would say that the government of Canada does purchasing. And for you, I think it's possible to do business in both ways. However, the approach is completely different. So the first one I'm going to talk about is low dollar value procurement. Now, you might be looking and thinking about public tenders as a priority, especially as an international company. We'll get to that in a moment. However, there is a lot of opportunity to do low dollar value purchases in Canada, especially if you were to open up a Canadian office or a subsidiary here in Canada. It could make that possible. These small one-off contracts can lead to a relationship with the government that can help you into developing tenders in the future. So they would be for purchases under 25,000 for goods, 40,000 for services, or 100,000 for construction. Right now, you're not going to see those tenders posted. They're not publicly posted. Government departments can go and do business with companies by their own accord for those amounts. Next slide. There are some reasons we can go and do a low dollar value or a non-competitive procurement in Canada, and there are some examples there. If there's an emergency or if it's for national security reasons, we saw a lot during, for example, the COVID pandemic for pressing emergencies when we had to buy vaccines or hand sanitizer or masks. We would just do emergency purchases with no public tenders. Next slide. So on the other side, there is competitive procurement, and for you folks in who are not set up in Canada yet, this might be your what you're looking at currently. So this would be for goods over 25,000, for services over 40,000, or 100,000 in construction. We have many free trade agreements around the world, as Frederick outlined. Our CETA agreement for Europe gives you folks access to bid on these tenders, just like it gives our access for our Canadian companies to bid on tenders in your country. And I'm sure you will be seeing that activity ramp up as well as we look to diversify our supply chains around the world as well. That being said, there are many opportunities to do business with the Government of Canada for international suppliers. Um, on that, just one bit before we flip over, there's a couple, three different types there that I'm going to briefly just mention to you. The three common types of ways that we do competitive procurement: request for proposal, which would just be a one-off for a certain number of goods, for one purchase. It's our most common type of procurement. But the two others, it's good to be familiar with them: standing offer or supply arrangement. Many of the products that we buy often, so for example, the office chair I'm sitting on, we would have a standing offer for the office chair. A list of companies would provide me with the office chair, for a year period at $500, say, and we would have an agreement. If you're not on that list, you may not be able to sell that product. Sometimes the lists are mandatory. Sometimes the lists are option, and departments can use other bits. All of that to say is the key for you is whatever you're selling, is your homework is to figure out, how does the Government of Canada buy what I'm selling? Is it through a pre-qualified list of suppliers? Is it through RFPs? Is it mostly low dollar value procurement? Is it big, large tenders? Is it part of large projects that are being subcontracted down? It could be a combination of all of those answers. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through this in detail. This is just to note that if you're doing professional services, so if you're doing IT consulting or engineering consulting, language training, different things of types of professional services, we do that. However, it's a lot more complicated. There are many different specific databases to get involved in. So I won't go into details, but if you do professional services, we can connect on that. Happy to talk a little bit about professional services. Canada Buys. This is your friend. So Canada Buys is our official source for government procurement. The website is there, but if you Google Canada Buys, you'll likely get our website. On the public-facing side, there is a Government of Canada website, Canada Buys, and in the background, it's SAP Ariba that is working. So if you already have an SAP Ariba account, you can link it to the Government of Canada, but you have to go through the Canada Buys registration in order to be listed as a Government of Canada supplier. You can do this today. You don't have to wait. It's free, and there's no downside to be listed as a government supplier. It's good to do that registration early. Spend some time and go through, fill out your profile, so that when a tender actually comes and is dropped, you will be ready. My advice is to do that, because if there's a tender dropped and you've got 20 days to respond, you don't want to be fiddling with your registration. You'll be very frustrated with me, and you'll be emailing me trying to make sure you can access the tender documents. This is just a screenshot of Canada Buys. It's kind of like a library catalog with a keyword search and filters. We do webinars and sessions to show you how to do this. My advice to you is to poke around on Canada Buys, do some searching with keywords that you sell. Think outside the box. All of the different words in English, the lovely English language, or French if you are fluent, that would apply to your product, because different people use different words, obviously, for different types of products. And you can use this site to not only find opportunities, but to find the awards of tenders. The awards of tenders are very useful, because you can find out which government departments are buying the product that you're selling, but also who is your competition, who has won tenders, and what was the amount of the tenders that they won. Everything over $10,000 in Canada has to be publicly disclosed. So you could put a summer intern on a project like this of go through Canada Buys, find out all the times that they've bought our product and who buys it and for how much and what is our competition. And that would be good little research project. And so just a few benefits. It's free. You don't have to sign up to actually use the search engine. You could just go to the site and use it. And you can also subscribe for alerts. So say you sell a certain product, put that keyword in and subscribe to that search so that you don't have to go back and search every time. You'll get an email every time a tender with that search term or keyword is added to the list. Next slide. Okay, this is a special slide I add for you folks. This is called the Canadian Content Procurement Nugget. There's lots of information on there. I'm not going to go into detail, but in general, what I get from international suppliers is, I hear you want to buy Canadian, so is there really a market for us? The answer is complex, and every time we go to buy something, the answer is different. We do try to buy Canadian from Canadian companies to a certain extent, but we've also signed international trade agreements to help both of our countries' economies. So there are different provisions that we put in place for the procurements that are above our trade agreement thresholds. They are open for companies to bid on. For the ones that are under the trade agreement thresholds, we often are trying to prioritize Canadian companies. That being said, we don't produce everything in Canada, and there are many, many, many sectors where we don't have perhaps a supplier in Canada that we use, or where there's an opportunity to do business with a Canadian supplier to do part of the project, for example, in a joint venture. But overall, if there are more than one Canadian company that offers the exact product that we're looking for, say I want this exact office chair. Well, we have companies in Canada that are going to produce this office chair, and there's more than two of them. We may apply a Canadian content provision to that procurement and say there is competition in Canada. There are businesses in Canada that produce it. We will reserve this. If there is one business in Canada that does it, we will not, because in that case, the business can just run up the cost. So if there's one business in Canada, one supplier of a product, we will open it up internationally for bids, and it'll be competitive tender. There are many examples where there aren't a Canadian equivalent. And when we start to go down the line of what is equivalent and what is not, that starts to get very complex. And if we're talking about IT equipment and we're talking about different, very highly specialized tools, the Canadian content provision can get complicated. My advice is every procurement is different. When you see a procurement, go through the documents, read what is there, see if there is a Canadian content provision. And you can always, one thing you can do is you can always work with the contracting authority who is on the project to discuss with them items such as this. Also to say, there are many opportunities to do business in Canada. That's great. Keep moving. Becoming a supplier, this first step is you can go in and register. We talked about this already, but if you do have already an SAP Ariba account, you can link that account to your Canada Buys information. There is a second registration, supplier registration information. I wouldn't worry about that as an international supplier just yet. But if you do get awarded a contract, you would have to go and get a procurement business number so that you could be paid in the end. But for now, I would focus on your SAP Ariba Canada Buys registration. Next slide. Finally, there are some more supports. This was kind of a high-level overview of government procurement and doing business in Canada. We do a lot more with businesses. We have a suite of seminars, webinars that we offer. Our different teams across the country deliver these, and you can attend any of them. We just happen to be connected with the Atlantic region today, but any of our regions can help. There are webinars on going over that search tool. So you actually practice creating searches, creating alerts, finding opportunities. There is a webinar on bidding, which is the most detailed, because once you get into those 150 page procurement documents, it starts to get complicated. So we can kind of break down a little bit for you the sections and how you would bid. There is a 1-800 line that we have. If you're like bidding and the tender closes in 2 hours and you're panicking and there's something that you can't figure out, there is a 1-800 line where somebody will pick up the phone right away to help you. And a number of things on our website. We do meet businesses one-on-one, and I know we don't have hundreds of us today. There's a good group here on the call, and I would be happy to meet with any of you. So if anybody would like to sit down and have a more of a one-on-one discussion about this and talk about what you sell and see where in Canada there might be markets, Alex kind of hinted at it. We're a big country. Things are different across the country. Alex talked a lot about vehicles. In my neck of the world, it's vessels. There are a lot of opportunities for vessel electrification. We've got lots of companies working on vessel electrification here in Halifax. Big opportunities there to get involved into that sector. So I would keep your mind open to Canada. On the energy front too, as someone who's here on the East Coast over there on the right of your screen, keep an eye out to the marine, renewable energy, the wind, the tidal, that stuff that Alex mentioned. Big deal here in Nova Scotia. And we do have a pact signed with Germany, our friends over there in Germany, to provide you with some hydrogen, green hydrogen in the future. So that's another exciting sector to keep an eye out. Finally, that's our last slide. There's our 6 regions of the country. That's how we're divided. So you do have 6 different offices of Procurement Assistance Canada across the country. If you were interested in a particular region of the country, anybody would be happy to help you. And there is a website where you can contact those regions specifically. So I will leave it at that today. Thanks for the opportunity to introduce procurement to the group. Always great to be able to engage with our friends in Europe, and happy to take any questions now, but also if things come up later, please do reach out. Happy to connect. All right.
Okay. Well, if there is no question for now, I can see that everybody keep their question for the end. We only have three remaining slides. I understand that e-boost is wrapping up or almost after 2.5 years. So maybe now people are wondering about what is the next step. So you've been exploring different opportunities in different countries, from different countries, and about Canada. So we saw during this webinar that there are some opportunities in the EV or sustainable mobility sector, that there are opportunities in public markets, but also obviously in private sectors too. And how can you address now these different markets from Europe, or by having your first footprint in Canada? So what is your market entry strategy as a SME or as a mid-sized company to enter in this Canadian market and seize this opportunity that we've been presenting to you? There are 3 main strategies that I will very briefly present today. So first is the export strategy. It's the strategy. You can change the slide if you want. Thank you, Ulfia. The export strategy is simply, well, if you have a product you can directly export from your country in Europe. It's a strategy with the least footprint in Canada, but it requires to be correctly prepared. The context is you need to understand how the market is geographically and in a market point of view segmented. Segmentation are very different in Europe and in Canada. Just the size of the country, and we talked about the different jurisdiction, different languages. So it is very important to understand correctly how your market is segmented. What is the cost of doing business, export business in Canada, east to west? Your networks are very different from one province to another. Networks, but also your distribution network or your clients are very different from one province to another. Usually we say that a region equals to a different market. And also we are working with 2 different languages. Sorry, it was a little bit fast here. So what is the advantage of an export strategy? It's quick. You can find quite quickly a distributor or your first direct clients on the market, but you have very few control on your sales and on what is happening with your products when you have exported them. At Adexia, we are offering 3 different. On the right side of the slide, you can see different services. So we have developed. I talked a little bit about it earlier. So we have developed a service for startups companies called Get Set Ready POC, helping startup companies to secure their first POC or their first referral in Canada, because one of your need is to have a first local reference to be recognized in Canada as a supplier of trust. Okay. We are offering export support and part-time business development. So this is a third. In a second step, when you have your first references in Canada, you can need to have a local business development service, and sometimes it's a too small market for you to have this business development support inside. So you can benefit from external part-time business development services from our teams here in Canada. So the other strategy is to settle a subsidiary. Jonathan spoke about some cases where you would need to have ideally a local subsidiary, for example, to access more under $25,000 markets of products. So the subsidiary could be a good strategy if you need to hire people in Canada. You need to have a structure to hold your working contracts in Canada, for example. Or if you want to secure or to bring confidence to your local clients, you would need to have a local subsidiary to say that, okay, I'm here to stay, I'm here for the long term, and you can rely on my presence for the next years or next decades. So the subsidiary can be your first step strategy, or it could be a second step after having developed exportations for a couple of years and saying, okay, now we have enough market here in Canada to bring our own team and to build our own teams and local support. So we are helping at Canada building your local subsidiaries through a one-stop shop service, and we are also renting office spaces for the first team of your local subsidiary. And last strategy you could consider would be to make an acquisition. As I said earlier, there is a lot of opportunities in acquiring small businesses in Quebec and other provinces in Canada in all kinds of industries, and this is a very good strategy to accelerate. To speed up your development in Canada. It's sometimes hard to start from scratch your business development. It can take years, 2-3 years to really build your local activities and market. And making an acquisition is a very good way of speed up this acquisition of your Canadian market. Merger and acquisition is not reserved to larger companies. You can find very small companies with 2, 3, 4 people, but very strong companies in their industry. So it's not something that is limited to larger SMEs or to mid-sized companies. So you can consider even if you're a company of 5, 10, 15 people, you can, or maybe if you're an investor yourself and you want to develop a new business in Canada, there are a lot of opportunities in making acquisition in Canada. And the Canadian government now has reduced a lot the different programs of immigration, but there is one program that is promoted presently is the investor program. And this program aims to attract entrepreneurs in developing new businesses or acquiring new businesses in Canada, because for the same reason that we have a lot of needs in renewing ownership in some companies. So this entrepreneur program is a tool that you can use to be allowed to live and work in Canada by acquiring a company. So yes, so you can keep in mind, and we can obviously speak one-on-one on these different strategies, but you can keep in mind that exportation, subsidiary, or a merger and acquisition are strategies that you can apply quite easily in Canada from your European base, and we're here to help. So we are based in Montreal and Toronto. I'm Frédéric Lotelier. I'm sorry, I just realized that I didn't introduce myself, so I will end by introducing myself. I'm Frédéric Lotelier. I'm the owner and founder of Adexia, and it was very nice speaking to you today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess it was a really, really nice and interesting opportunity to see what is possible in Canada in general. And I guess for everything, it kind of builds up in Europe and Canada that they want to connect with each other, and anywhere we are trying, or we are calling with colleagues, and there are definitely strong interests in connecting and reaching out to different partners and building up new supply chains. And yeah, thank you very much. We will share the information or contact information from all of you afterwards. We will have a blog post, and we will as well upload the webinar on YouTube. And if there are no other questions, I would say thank you very much to Alex, Frédéric, and Jonathan. And yeah, I think we can close this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Greetings from Hamburg.